Oh, there he is.
Yeah, you come on. Hi, Ace.
Hey, come on. How's your week off?
That's been all right.
Don't sound so enthusiastic. It's almost over.
Yeah, I know. Just this whole Tommy situation has cast a pallor over it all.
The whole what?
The whole situation with our friend, the intervention. It's going to go down tomorrow.
Oh, fuck, dude. Sorry about that. Let me
That's
think about
okay.
it. Dude, I'm getting closer to being a real life fucking glass artist.
That's awesome, dude. I can say, yeah, I knew him when my best American friend.
Yeah, you sure can.
So let's talk about what we want to talk about.
Dude, hail in Texas.
So obviously the origin story, and in that origin story, um, because he's from the early 80s and got on board right away, I just kind of want to spend some time in the 80s.
Yeah, that's cool.
I want to talk about, like who were his I know he's mentioned in other interviews that Mike Travers was one of his mentors or his major mentor, but
Travers is one of the coolest people on the planet. That's another dude we should have on the show for sure. It
good.
might be really, really fucking hard to get him to say yes, though. But maybe we could get Marissa, his daughter. Have you
But
ever met her?
no, I never met Mike either.
You want to know? You want to talk about fucking wicked smart? She is a fucking rocket scientist, man. She works for NASA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I've known her since she was a little girl.
Now, since we couldn't get Genley on, I want to make the point, and I think I brought this up in our conversation with Keith, but a lot of times people who get into the game, especially when they get hooked and they get that rush of entry into it, and they want to fill the gaps with their energy, and so a lot of times people will become local TDs or course installers or involved on course committees or whatever because they turn out to be kind of good players who are engaged with it. But it's very rare you get really amazing top shelf players who are also very important promoters or advocates. I like to use the word promoter, but I think advocate is probably a more inclusive term. But Jim Oates, well, Dan Ginelli and Jim Oates are the two people that I mean, I remember talking to this guy in Montreal, and he looked at me like I was his biggest rival, rather than looking at me like I could be his biggest ally and help him with like filling in the gaps in historical knowledge with this golf. He just chose to see me as the English. Everything that's wrong with this province is based in this guy. Anyways,
Based on
but
English.
yeah, but anyways, I
It
remember
all
having
starts
this
with
kind of,
English and gets worse from there.
and I just happened to be English and also a bit of a better player than him. Not that I was very good at all. Anyways, the point is, he also
I'm
wanted
getting
to
the
try to
picture here,
run.
guy. Good guy, good guy, guy, good guy.
He wanted to try to run
That's your best
tournaments.
American friend.
You get the
I can fill
picture
in the
pretty
gaps
much.
in your story.
But anyways, I told him, I remember telling him, look, you can choose either to focus your attention, whatever time and attention that you have in your life, on playing, learning to become the best player. Just focus on that. If you want to be that dominant guy, if that competition level really excites you, do it for sure. But if you know you're not going to be a top shelf player, well, devote your energies also to promoting the sport. Yeah, and it's very difficult to have both. And Jim Oates and Dan Ginelli are the two guys I use. I don't know. There might be other great
No,
exceptions.
that's great. That's a really good thing to talk about because that's there's not gonna be that many people we can ask those questions.
And the kind of tragedy is, well, not tragedy, but the irony is we could have had the two of them on this week, kind of back to back shows, the two paragons of player promoters.
He's on a call with Disc Golf Network. Until 6:45, so that's cool. I'll be fine with that. I asked Roger for some shareable dirt, and I like the way that you got your spring fever hat on up there, and you're still wearing your nice jacket zipped all the way up.
Well, I want to make sure you can see how sweet this thing is, Well, shit, it's like tomorrow's the first day of spring or whatever, and there's snow everywhere out there. So that's just the way it be. Thank God we got a covered dome. But our boys are in Florida anyways.
Your boys are in Florida.
So
Oh yeah, yeah.
okay, so I wanted to spend some time at length at the world at the origin story. One of the things I definitely would love us to cover with him is when I was doing a quick scan of the PDJ website. He has played in 30. This is his 38th straight year of playing PDJ disc golf tournaments, and he's won in every year except for three. That's phenomenal. That's
What do you take like second in those 3 years?
I didn't look that deeply, to be honest. But I definitely want to talk about his world championship wins. Let's talk about Rochester because we were both there. That was a wild ride, and we can. I remember. Yeah, I was caddying for Harold, but I think he got done early, so I watched the playoff with Jim because that was a dramatic win for him. That was his first world championship win.
Yeah.
I also want to talk to him about Whiff Diff. He won the Whiff Diff overalls in 1991. So I like the idea of if he's still doing, kind of multiple frisbee sports. I like the idea of keeping that in the mix in the conversation.
I bet if he is, it's because of Juliana now. I bet he hasn't been, but I could be wrong.
Hmm. I definitely want to just talk to him about that because there's the records from 1991. I tried to look, and my research skills aren't impeccable. I'll be the first one to admit that. But
Who's
those
going to
records
argue with
from
you? Come on.
there's lots of people could be arguing, but like it doesn't show.
No.
I couldn't find the results from each event. I could only see double disc court, and I think it was freestyle. And I didn't see Jim Oates' name in either of those two. So to win the overall, you've got to win or place in or get points in a lot of those categories. If he did got zeros in those, what did he other than disc golf, which he won? What else helped him seal the deal as the overall winner?
Good idea. We also need to talk about how he hit the lottery twice last year. One with his health and two marrying Juliana.
I want you to bring that up, okay?
Don't kid yourself. I'm
Because
fine with it.
you have a very personal connection with both of those stories kind of
Oh
converging
yeah,
and
totally. And like doing the
you
drive by
standing.
at the hospital, we definitely should talk
Yeah.
about that again too. Because I mean, I think that was one of the coolest things I did last year, maybe in the last 5 years for a Fred. Just like, hey, dude, it's fucking shit times. Can't even have any visitors, but I'll do a drive by. Oh yeah, I'm like this, defending, defending, starting today.
What is that? National champs for what?
Basketball. I'm like this. We invented it.
Oh, okay. That's what that is. That's what that little what is that, like a turkey vulture or is that
That's the
a
Jayhawks, motherfucker. Turkey vulture. The turkey vulture's on your hat, fucker. Yeah, there's two reasons why spring sports are awesome.
yeah,
Final Four,
yeah,
playoff hockey.
yeah. That's but you can't get more than that. Um you and I think it might be close to between the two of us how many tournaments we've run in our career, but do you want to talk to him about his tournament directing experiences? Like I wrote down a couple of quick questions to ask. What was your first event that you TD'd? how many you think you've run? What was the biggest event? What was the most meaningful event? Um, is there anything else like for you as being a promoter trying to stay valid in the business down? Well, maybe not so much now, but in the 2000s for sure.
Trying to reestablish myself now.
But is that something that you want to approach him about? You want to run with those kind of
Yeah, for sure. I can ask him
directions?
about
Okay.
that because I know. I mean, like I think I talked last week about it, and I'll probably talk about it a lot going forward about why I started running tournaments. And about because I don't think it should be a secret that the touring players aren't that nice to the fucking people that run the events. And I know things have changed, but I also know that there's still some of that undertow going on. And not that I'm going to make a big deal about that in particular, but yeah, sure, I'd love that. I mean,
Okay.
I'm down to talk to him about that. So I'm talking to him about his health report / hitting the lottery and about how he got started as a promoter aside from being a player. And I think that's really good. That like I like that insight because you're right. I mean, like I can only think of a few people, like a guy named Smitty in Wichita. He runs a bunch of series and he fucking wins a bunch of his events. He plays in them and smacks everybody around. And
But he hasn't run a national pro tour event or world championships.
no, no, but he's a he's a dynamic guy, and so he's been involved in some of those events that they've run.
Dynamic. Who's dynamic?
Dynamic disc.
Is Jim a dynamic disc player?
Mm-mm. But that guy Smitty was who I was talking about.
Oh,
And then like Andy Karras was pretty good at. I mean, he was decent as a player. And Tony fucking Ellis, remember Tony Ellis from like somewhere near Pawpaw? He's got a 7,000 number. When you saw him, you go, "Oh, I remember that dude."
Tony Ellis.
He ran a couple of tournaments in that area and played in them. He would not. He's one of those guys that would not play in them. That's got to be. That's like the worst ass whooping ever, especially if you're playing bad.
Okay, so why don't I? What? I'm trying to also think about how it makes most sense, like just the flow of conversation topics.
Well, let's start with
Oh,
the where you started and what you started. What was your first disc, and that same question that we ask everybody.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But I think we should do the origin story, talk about the world championships. That'd be a chance maybe to talk about. We add whiff diff in there later. Actually, that doesn't have to be part of that. But then that's where we can make the switch and go into you to talk about you know those two topics, his health status and also the particular challenges and rewards of being a tournament director and especially a high level tournament director running these like major events. Um, Maybe we could just lead into it with just either talking what I was saying about how players could be one or the other or not both, and there's a few exceptions, or
No, that's good.
tomorrow's tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day, and or maybe this is an and tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day, and he was a longtime tournament director for the St. Patrick's Day Classic.
Was he?
Yeah,
Okay. And
so
now
that
it's
could,
Nisley's.
and those two were partners in Final Nine, right?
Yes. Yeah. Bruce
And
Nisley and his wife and Jim.
so what happened there? Did he
I think
just?
that I think that it came to be a good time to buy him out.
Hmm, okay,
I think it just kind of came to be a time where he wasn't as involved as he used to be, and Um, just made more sense to buy him out. RJ works for Bruce, and RJ would have told me for sure if there was any bad blood falling out when that shit happened, because RJ was working for him then too. I don't think there was any bad blood at all.
Okay. Okay, so I just sent you a quick email with quick what your topics are. What the hell is this? Right. I think talking about um talking about the tour and tournaments and players from the tournament director side is a pretty good area for exploration. And I don't know how often tournament directors get interviewed. Usually the players get a lot of the glory.
Right.
And I mean, as a player, he deserves all the glory, but also as a tournament director, this is a perfect time. And it's also something, I mean, I can talk to it too, but this is something that you've got maybe a little more direct experience with the tour as it pertains to, the tour down there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, now, I know he's with Innova now, but at one point he was sponsored by Lightning, and I want to ask him about that.
Fucking right.
I think he said he was with Lightning for like 15 years. Jesus, the
Might
only
be a
other
bit
player
longer
I've
than
ever. Well, the only thing I wonder is, did he poison Roger's mind with the idea of throwing a lightning putter?
that. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Oh shit! You know what I need to do?
What's that?
Post the link.
Oh, to him?
No, to everybody else.
Oh, cool. Wow. Javier Kowalski. Oh shit, that was the memorial. Oh, Rob Laurie, there he is. Mitch Mack. Oh, he didn't show up.
Where are you seeing this at?
I'm looking at the results from the memorial in the Grandmasters division.
Yeah, Mitch Mack had Mitch Mack had some sort of a health issue and he went home
Hmm. Oh,
early.
Dr. Rob was there too. Holy smokes. Three 60-year-old Canadian players representing. Way to go, boys.
Fucking old.
But Jim's started off to a pretty sweet start of the tour already. He's won the Wintertime Open, the Old Goats Challenge. Where's that? Is that in Vegas? No.
Goat Hill. Is it Goat Hill Challenge?
The Old Goats Challenge, Escondido, California. But he came second at the Memorial and third at the Las Vegas Challenge. Oh, to Kevin Couch. Oh wow, Kevin Couch and Mitch Mack tied. Looks like Mitch Mack beat him in overtime, and Oatsy was one stroke behind those two guys. 11 strokes out of fourth. Wow, that's off to a fairly dominating start this year so far. Hmm. How far back does this cash streak go? Ah, he kind of gets smoked in the open divisions. It's understandable.
Yeah.
Hmm. Can't really see that one. Oh, look at those two cuties. No. There he goes. Looks like he's in Australia, mate. About to punch a Joey.
I haven't heard back from Harold yet.
Yeah.
I sent him a reminder today, though.
So he didn't respond at all in any way to your question, but
No, he's ghosting me. I'm getting ghosted by a 58 or 59-year-old. That's when you know you really made it.
fucking Harold.
Getting Harold. He's pretty
What?
awesome.
He's not 60 yet?
No, no, I
Wow.
think he might be 58. I think he's 2 years older than me. But I'll tell you this: sometimes I go in and talk to him, and I feel like I'm talking to my dad. You know what I mean? Like going in there and going, "Fuck." Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like that one
Yeah.
time I went around the corner too tight out in front of the shop and ruined a fucking wheel and a tire on the back of one of his trailers. And I was like, I just went right in there. And I go, yeah, I just fucked up your trailer. I'm sorry. And then he goes, well, Brian, he goes, that kind of thing happens around here. And I was like, I started thinking about all of it that happened that I was aware of. And I was just going, yeah, I guess you're right. It does happen around here, doesn't it? And I go, well, I just wanted you to hear it from me first. So there you go.
Okay, base.
Yeah.
This like this. What?
Yeah, come on. Mm,
Okay. Other than that, everything all groovy with you?
dude. I have one, two, three. I got at least 15 more glass pieces to make.
You're making some progress. I think you had 19 when I last talked to you.
Yeah, I made 3 today. I got 4 in the box. One's the color test though, but somebody will like it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, dude, man, I'm telling you. I mean, like I still got a lot to learn, and I get lucky a lot, but um, there's a few things I'm starting to figure out. And so, like, Zane came over, picked up his trophy day before yesterday, and dude, oh man. So I got advice from a friend on painting the sandblast in it so that it stands out. Because like if you look at those photos, um, if you're holding it right here in front of you, you can see it quite well. But like if it's sitting on the shelf and you're 3 feet away, it gets a lot harder the further away you are to see it. And so I really want that to jump. And so I got some advice from a couple of my friends of mine, and one of them said, "Hey, yeah, don't even peel your resist off after you sandblast it. Take it home and then hit it with the spray paint." Well, I did that, and it it didn't go very well. It didn't. It really highlighted, accentuated. Part of the reason I didn't want to do it was because it accentuates the flaws in the sandblast anyways. But I was like trying to be diligent about the way I was handling it. And I thought it looked great until I went to peel it off, and man, instantly I was like, this is not what I was looking for. This isn't it. And now I'm stuck with this big old piece of glass that's got the spray paint on it. And I don't know if it's gonna be able to come off. I'm gonna be able to get it off. So I kind of stewed on it all weekend. And look, oh, get him up to speed, Juliana. Come on.
Yeah, hey, there he
What's
is.
up, Oates?
Hey, how are you? Oh, there's a nice picture.
There he is, right there.
That's right.
Let me get the mugshot photo too. That's one of my
Oh,
favorites.
you got the one with the numbers.
No, I don't have the wait. Where'd it go?
Oh, come on, send
Right.
us the one with the numbers real quick. So, anyways, be that
Oh, it's cut off at the head. It's too big.
I
Oh
I like that
man.
one.
I used lacquer thinner and a toothbrush, and that paint turned to liquid,
Oh,
so I survived.
Mace is talking about some of his glass blowing trophy bumps on the
Near
along the road.
mistake, or mistakes that were near big bumps that turned out to be no bumps. How you feeling, Oates?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. It's February 8th was my birthday, I guess, for rebirth. But yeah, I'm feeling not too bad. I mean, I get a little tired sometimes. I'm having a little problem with long-term stamina. But I'm enjoying playing, and that's great. And traveling, Juliana and I are out on the road, and we're in Austin this week. She's doing commentary.
You're not live yet.
I'm not
Yeah,
live.
and we're not live yet, so don't spill all
Okay.
the beans.
Don't spill none of the beans. I'm doing good then. How's that? One word
Perfect.
answers. One
Yeah,
word answers
let's
until we
go
go
for one
live.
word answers for the next 3 minutes, and then let's put
Okay.
10 more words in there after that.
Okay, you got it. You got
Hey,
it.
so listen, we don't like I know you obviously pretty well, and B knows you as well, but is there anything you want to talk about, or is there anything you don't want to talk about?
No, no. The things that I don't want to talk about, I don't think you know. And
Oh, okay.
so I think I'd be pretty safe with most conversations. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Beautiful answer,
Yeah.
Jimmy.
And
Yeah.
so, hey, one other quick question that I didn't know the answer to. I know that you and Bruce, you and the Nisleys recently dissolved your partnership. Is that what were the details on that? And if you don't want to talk about that, that's fine too.
I was ready and they were willing.
Okay.
You said one word answers, so that's what I got for you.
Okay, so that's one of the things that we were going to talk about tonight too, but I didn't remember. Like RJ didn't tell me there was anything bad, and so I was like, I don't think there's anything bad that happened. And if
No, there was nothing bad.
it was just good
There,
timing. I was the way I understood it. I thought it was good timing for both of y'all.
well, I think it worked out to be good timing for both of us. I think it was a little, I don't know. Sometimes I look back and think that I'd like to be involved still, and then I look back and see the stress level that they have sometimes, and I'm glad that
Well,
I'm not
hey, I'm
there.
going to say this not in public, but every time I'm around Bruce, man, he looks older. And it's like he said something last time to me. He goes, "What the fuck is with Mace, man? Every time I see him, he's thinner and he looks younger." And I was like, "God damn, Bruce, you do look older. I'm sorry." I mean, but it's true, dude. I mean, he's aging. He's totally aging.
Well, he's a grandfather now, multiple time, and running those two businesses, chasing your tail all the time is can be stressful.
You mean two
A lot of
locations?
people
Or
think that a lot of people think that the pro shops are making tons of money and doing all that, but most of the time you get into the pro shop idea and the tournament running idea because you love the sport and you want to keep it going,
All right, well,
and for me it was
don't
starting.
go too far away from that because
All
we're
right.
going to talk
Yeah.
a bunch about that
That's
right
definitely
there.
about, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start this on Facebook Live real quick, and then
And so, Jim, just so you know,
Yeah.
I do an intro for all of our guests. This is based on I the official host and master of ceremonies for the Toronto Island Maple Leafs. So it's a tea time tournament, and I take the opportunity to either give a boast or a roast. It's going to be a little bit of a mixture of both here, but
Well, you have a lot of material, so you should
Well-
do all right.
well, I mean, yeah, living legend. It's not often I get to semi roast a living legend for sure. But also,
That's
you're,
all right. I'll try not to put my finger gestures in the screen.
all right, we're going live, guys.
all right. Welcome to Good Times Hour with Mace Man and Mr. B. This is our special edition coming at you in March, right before St. Patrick's Day, with our very special guest and friend, Jim Oates. And let's just jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome to the tee the semi-pro soccer failure who is one of disc golf's greatest treasures. A player and promoter without measure, the man with 2 broken feet and no run-up to crush the drive over 400 feet. His eye is always on the prize, even when old age has dimmed his sight and reduced his majestic might. He's still the old redwood, keeping it loose while always looking spruce. He's the center of the maelstrom, the rider on the storm, full of fury and form, the quintessential champ from the center of the state where disc golf's stamp was imprinted on the world. He's the rock and roll thunder child caught up in the hobby gone wild. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very special guest tonight, the longtime face of Final Nine, the only 7 of hearts that matters, the 5-time world champ, Hall of Fame Classic 2014, and maybe the best ever known sponsored Lightning player ever known. From the road by way of Orangevale, Jim, the missing link, Oates.
Oh my goodness, what an intro. Holy smokes.
I can just sit
Okay,
here.
thank you everyone. Good night.
I can just sit here and watch those punches just kind of rock you back and forth. And it's like, oh, here's another one.
my.
Oh,
Oh man.
dude,
Good
how are
stuff.
you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good, man. I can't complain. Dodged a bunch of hailstones this afternoon and made 4 pieces of glass that are hopefully going to look real nice tomorrow. And I'm great. I can't complain.
All right, fantastic. Are you making some trophies for somebody special?
I have I've got Throw Pink and USDGC to make, and I also have a possibility of maybe making a permanent trophy for Throw Pink, which is separate from I've got 7 pieces for those 2 events to make. And after being at the memorial, 2 weeks ago and just really putting myself through the ringer this spring trying to get that ready, I just told them, I said, look, we got to do this. Like, I really need to go ahead and do this as soon as I got time and get it out of the way, because with the way the Christmas light season leaves me, like busy till the end of January, it's really not enough time to pull that off. And I pulled it off. But this year I made the men's first place trophy on Monday and left to deliver them on Friday and
Wow.
handed them out on Sunday. So it was too much. And it happens like that. That's part of why when people ask me, hey, will you do this for me? If I'm doing something for an event, I need 6 months.
Yeah.
Because that way I'm not going to run late. I'm not going to be coming to you with a sob story or tell you that I need to ship them to the people's houses or whatever. And I mean, I've been through those ringers and it sucks. But
Yeah.
So
I know you. I have a few of your trophies. They're beautiful, and you do a masterful job.
Well, I'm working on it, and I really feel like I'm turning the corner here, really right now and going forward. So it's it's something I really, really enjoy, and it's really nice that that it's pretty sought after. I mean, Gannon Burr's mom sent me a photo a couple days ago, and I saw it on Facebook, and like I just shipped her that trophy from the memorial, and he also got the championship, so they were side by side. So that's a pretty cool. That's a nice little trophy shelf photo, and
Oh yeah.
and it was really cool too, because like I know the ladies love them, but I've heard a lot of good feedback just in the last 2 weeks from a lot of the guys too, and it was pretty cool for Patrick and his girlfriend to win one. I thought it was going to be you and Juliana, being the first couple to take one home. And I know you just missed that, but hey,
That's all right. No, that's okay.
it was still like it's such a great milestone for me. All of it, like
Yeah.
Kale winning it. Like I'm not gonna. I'll tell the honest truth. While I was making both of those trophies, I knew that the MP40. I just knew that the MP40 was going to be Kale's trophy, and I knew that the FP50 was going to be Juliana's trophy. And I was like, oh, this is Juliana's trophy right here. As I'm making them, and not very often do I get to do that. Because usually I'm making them well in advance, and I don't know what's going on, and I didn't know what was going on when I made those, but I was pretty sure that Juliana was taking one home again, and I was
Yeah.
almost 100%
Well,
certain that Kale was.
those are the ones we saved. Like, for example, Juliana and I just packed up all of our stuff before we left on tour during the off season. We were in a rental back in Northern California, and we pulled everything out. We put it up into storage at my brother's, and we just cleaned house. I was cleaning house on everything. And I had a lot of trophies
Sure
in
you did.
boxes and boxes and boxes, and because I've had some success, but
Just a little.
just a little, and I've been very fortunate. But I took those trophies, I gave them to a local that is running women's tournaments up at his new property he bought with courts. I gave him all my trophies, but I kept my Mace Mans, I kept my worlds. There's some trophies
For sure.
you just don't let them go because they look, but some of the trophies I was like, oh, they could reuse that trophy, or the disc is in my disc collection and it's no longer, because remember back in the day, you got a board with the little piece of metal on it, and whatever the tournament stamp disc was nailed to the disc or to the board, right? So I had a lot of those boards that didn't have any disc on them anymore. So,
but those are easily. I mean, you can replace that with a plaque and with a disc from the event.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a good recycle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Mace Man, your trophies are all bubble wrapped and in storage.
Nice.
That's cool, man. That definitely means a lot to me too. And it's I was talking with Sarah last year, and it was one of the biggest pats on the back, Sarah Nicholson. And she said to me while we were discussing what we were doing exactly for her set of trophies, and she goes, well, that your trophies are one of the only trophies that Katrina keeps. And I was like, what? And she goes, oh yeah, she usually leaves her trophies with the people that put her up. She'll give them to the people that put them up most of the time. And I was like, and she goes, but not yours. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, and then she ends up getting one, and that fall right away. And so that's cool. And, and honestly, this hasn't happened to me that many times yet, but like I went to Barry's house, and in Barry's disc room, the one that he won at the Selinsky from Charlotte, it's right there in the middle, like just right there in the middle of everything. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool,
Yeah, you gotta love those, man. Gotta love those moments.
Well, yeah, and it's just like so many of y'all, that are my friends for such a long time have taken one home, and man, it really, that means a lot to me. That not only have we got a long enduring friendship, but oh hey, I looked at the results. Oh look, and I mean that one, that like Beeve won one, Elaine King won one, Barry won one. I mean there was a bunch of people, Stan McDaniel. I mean just a bunch of people that I've known for a long time, that I looked up to, that I've had really good conversations with and stuff, and now they got a piece of my art in their house, and they earned it. They didn't come and buy it from me. So I mean that's a whole nother step.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
gotta agree with that.
Before we get too far off into the conversations, there may be people out there who I mean, Jim, you're a worldwide phenomenon, but you're a West Coast phenomenon, and maybe people need to have a little background on some of the stats on you. I was just doing a quick PDGA check, and this is your 38th straight year playing a PDGA tournament, and that, I don't know how many other people can claim that. That might be one of 3 people in the world, maybe. And you have wins in almost every one of those years. That kind of dominant force of play you have. No wonder why you had so many trophies you had to get rid of. I mean, just the wins alone, you have 99 wins so far.
Yeah.
Your first win you beat a small field, especially in that field was Glenn Whitlock. And then I want to talk about some of the early days. I know the stories from the 80s. There are a lot of players, especially nowadays, they have no idea of things that happened in the 90s. And the 80s was really where the beveled edge revolution happened. And one of our questions we like to talk to people is their origin story. What's your story? And I know I've read some of the interviews and listened to some of the videos, but I want to ask you specifically, do you remember what the first disc was that you threw and what you had?
Let's see. Let's see, because I played one time out at Orangevale before I broke my feet. My brother and his friends were playing out there, and some of my old friends were playing out there, but I was playing softball and semi-pro soccer and working and didn't even really know what disc golf was. And I went out and I want to say that that somebody gave me a lightning and an arrow, and I think that was all I got. And I played the round like that. And believe it or not, everyone was running up. So if I remember right, I was running up also. But like I said, I only played the one time, and then I was interested in playing and started to think about playing, and I think I went with a Phantom Plus and an Arrow were my starter discs. And of course I had a Moonlighter in there because we still played object courses. And I had a Phantom Plus, a P38 was in the bag. Those were the early years when I first started playing after I got, after I got out of the wheelchair and started playing on crutches. That's what I started with, was those kinds of discs.
Now,
Yeah.
I know
That's where I
there are
developed the one step or no step.
absolutely, I mean, you're absolutely famous for that. It's graceful to watch you throw the big power
Well, I
bombs.
actually started with taking my crutches and putting them in my left hand and then pressing that against the ground because I still had a cast on my left foot. So that would hover in the air and I'd stand on my right foot and I would throw rollers on every hole. And that's how I teed on every hole when I first started playing. I threw a roller, I figured out a way to throw a roller on every hole.
How
Wow.
did you break your feet? I didn't know this story. I don't know this story.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, got off work one day with my brother and my best friend and Sam, and we went down to a place in Folsom, just right out, kind of one of the lakes there, Folsom Lake and Natomas Lake connect. There's a little area there off of Folsom Boulevard. Some locals that might be listening might know where I'm talking, but it's called China Wall now. But went there and went up on this, it was about 70 feet or so. And there was a little stone wall that was maybe a foot high or so, 2 feet high. And we sat up there and we were, having a beer and other stuff. And so we were like, should we jump? And it's like, oh, it looks pretty far out there, and so we decided that we wouldn't jump. We were like, no, let's just go down to the rope swing. So we started going back down the hill, and I said, screw that, I'm going for it. I went back up and I ran off the little concrete slab, jumped off the wall, and right away I realized that the wall had pushed me up instead of out. So I realized right away that there was no way I was making it to the water. So if you could picture, I'm like jumped and now I'm drifting. So I start swinging my arms and moving my body this way. And as I came down to the cliff, I buried my left foot into the ground and then relaxed and went into the water, and the edge of the clay bank is where I caught my right foot. And I wound up breaking my right foot in 3 places and shattering my left foot. And yeah, that was fun. And then the to hear my brother and my buddy, he's passed away now, but he my brother tell the story. Okay, their jump was almost scarier because they were at the top and I'm at the bottom trying to pull myself out of the water. And so they're both started running down the side of the hill, jumping and skidding down the side of the hill, if you could imagine, and then jumping out and both landing in the water and to get to me. And then a guy from across the lake, we yelled at him. He brought over his boat and he took me up to the front docks, and the ambulance took me to the hospital. And
How long did it
Yeah.
take you to recover?
well, I was in the wheelchair for 8 to 12 weeks, something like that. So there's a lot of floor crawling and stuff with 2 casts, you know. My brother and I lived in an apartment. It was upstairs. My brother used to carry me up and down the stairs. And then finally he
Is
was
your
like,
brother as big as you?
I have an identical twin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know
So
that. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah, identical twin. So he finally got tired of that. And he's like, you're gonna have to figure out a way how to get up and down these stairs without me carrying you. So I started to figure that out, you know, dragging my ass up and down, you know, using my arms. But this led to my work. I'm sharing some personal stuff here. The world's most embarrassing moment of my life came when we went out to dinner, and I was in the wheelchair and we're at the table and I need to go to the bathroom. So my brother is like, he's like, well, do you need some help? And I said, no, I think I got this. So I rolled into the bathroom and I got myself on the commode and I used the bathroom because there was no standing up. Let's just be honest. Okay. So I don't need any girly jokes. So now I'm sitting there and I realize that I have no way to support myself to pull my pants up. No way. Not a way in the world. So I am sitting there for probably 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. And finally, my brother comes in. He goes, hey, what's going on? You okay? And I'm like, dude, I can't pull my pants up. He's like, oh, man. So he has to come into the stall and pick me up so we can get my pants up, get me back in the chair, and take me back to the table. Okay.
Hey, at least it wasn't your best friend. It was your brother. I mean,
it was my
obviously
brother.
He's got to be one of your best friends. Since
Oh
you're
my
twins.
gosh. Oh my gosh. So now I am literally sitting at the table and, you know, we're a bunch of big guys. And so you know how big guys are in a restaurant.
Sure.
We're the center of attention. You know, we're laughing, we're loud. Oh my God, how embarrassing. That story went on for hours. Hours.
So does he hang it over your head still?
Oh, still. Oh yeah. He loves to finish my story about my broken feet with that story. Oh yeah. You know how it is at Thanksgiving. You know, they always tell the best stories at Thanksgiving. That one's always told.
That's a pretty damn good
That's
story.
a pretty good. I'm glad I asked, Jim. I did not know this about you, and I've known you for quite some time. So,
But that just
Yeah.
goes to show you that one error in judgment, one moment in time, one lapse of judgment like that is disc golf's pleasure. I mean, you've enriched the game. Would you have come to the game if you hadn't have been convalescing?
No,
You know what I mean?
no, I was gonna go play soccer in Europe actually.
Wow.
So that career was over, and so I was out at the park and started playing, you know, on my crutches, started getting pretty good at rolling. Then I started getting pretty good. Then guess it was 83. No, maybe it was 80. Well, I started playing locally. A lot of like they called them novice events back then. They had just started doing kind of novice stuff. Everybody before that, kind of in the late 80s, early 80s, when you signed up for the PDGA, it was you were a pro only. That's the only thing you had to choose from. You didn't get to choose AM 1, 5, 6, this, that, it was pro or nothing, but, so I started playing amateur events in the local area, and I won in the rule. Charlie Callahan ran tournaments back then. Him and Mike Travers, Bob Drez, Paul Avancino, Rhett Smart, the Cousins. Those were the people in charge of running stuff back then. Well, I guess maybe Mike came a little later than them, Mike Cousins, but those guys like Rhett Smart took care of the Bay Area. Tom Schott and Marty took care of Santa Cruz.
Right.
Travers took care of the foothills.
Right.
Craig Getty took care of Tahoe area. Charlie Callahan took care of Sacramento. Bob Jerez took care of Auburn. That's kind of how it was back then. Everybody had their lane. Everybody kind of stayed in it.
Nice.
And so I played a bunch of those novice events. I won 4 of them in a row, but that's another story. Oh, you're going to draw them all out.
That's the whole purpose of this, Jim. That's the whole reason we're here, is to tell and to hear stories.
The very first tournament that my brother and I went to play in was the Sonoma State Championships. Okay. And this was when Tom Ford was running everything out there. And I want to say that Kevin Parkhurst and Tobish and those guys were helping him back then. They were all going to college.
Right.
Roger Kanzler.
Yeah.
Those guys were all kind of there. Same with Scott Riley. Those guys, everybody all played. Yeah. They all played in that little area, and went down there to play in that tournament. My brother and I were both in the novice division, and in NorCal, the rule was if you played better than half the field in front of you, you were bumped. There was no sandbagging or none of that. If you played better than half the field in front of you, you're gone. So if you're in the novice and you're beating half the pros, you are now a pro.
That's pretty cool.
Okay. That was the rule.
So how'd you get 4 novice wins in? Let's hear this part.
Okay. My first novice win, my brother and I were in the same division, and Tim shot an outstanding round. My brother, Tim.
Okay.
And my twin, he was in 3rd place in the open and was leading the novice by 10 strokes.
Wow.
So they bumped him out of the division.
Wait, they did that in the middle of the tournament?
I didn't realize that. Right in the tournament.
Yeah, right there in the middle of the tournament, that first round, boom, you're gone.
Talk about going from winning the lottery to losing the lottery.
Well, he winded up taking 5th in the tournament, so he did have some success.
That's awesome.
But guess who wound up in 1st place?
Brother Jim.
That's right. And I did not beat half the field, and I winded up winning that tournament, and he still holds that over me. What twins are great, because they always call and give you the shot in the arm when you need it, and they also, stick their thumb on you when they need to too.
Probably a shot in the groin too.
Yeah.
So does he still live near you?
He lives in Idaho now. About 3 years ago, he and his family went up there and bought a church, and he's a pastor. And they have a nice church up there, and up in Lewiston, Idaho.
Wow, right on.
Yeah. So.
And I know I looked him up, obviously, because I saw Jim and Tim Oates. Your second ever pro tournament was the Santa Cruz Worlds in '86. The records don't show how much you beat your brother by. They just show you as listed above your brother. Maybe you want to elaborate on how many strokes you beat him by there, but he didn't play too often. There was, he's not obviously as into the game as you are. But
No, Tim, we had a couple of different businesses back then, and then he found his calling to the Lord, and bless him for that. And so he went to seminary school. He got married, started a family, and really started to develop different churches in different areas. in California and Nevada. So I think that he went on the path he wanted to go on and he needed to go on. So
Nice.
very proud of him in that. And he has 4 great boys now that all have families. Daniel doesn't have a family, but Big Daniel, he's the greatest. He's his youngest, and he's awesome. Gotta love Big Dan.
Are they all tall like you guys?
Yeah, they're all big except David.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, I don't know what happened to David, but the
Picked up
third
the wrong
boy.
kid at the
Yeah,
hospital.
he didn't quite make it. But no, David's a great kid too. So they're all good. They have one on the way, and they have a small boy, right? Is that right? Yeah, I get that right. Check with
Nice.
the wife.
That's
You-
cool. Well, you know, somebody's got to keep track of all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So-
You talked a lot about the promoters and tournament directors that were staying in their
Mhm.
lane, but also really forming the beginning of the NorCal series, or forming the nucleus of it. When you were first kind of, after you had taken the pill and you had become, okay, this is it, I'm into this game now. I've bought more than 2 discs and I'm thinking about the sport a lot. Who were the players that you looked up to that you wanted to maybe set in your targets or eventually beat, or maybe some heroes of yours, the early heroes?
Well, I mean, one of my early influencers from the player side and mentor in golf as well was Mike Travers. I don't think I ever wanted to beat Mike Travers. I think I eventually started to beat Mike Travers, but he wasn't one of the guys I wanted to beat. I love that man to death. So
Yeah, he's one of the greatest. Definitely.
yeah, so we played partners a lot together. That way I didn't have to worry about beating him. So we would just go win tournaments together, which we did quite often. But I guess during the beginning years of when I started playing in my local area, the best players were Gary Olray, Peter Sontag.
Still one of the best.
Yeah, RJ started to come along maybe right after me. There was a couple of local guys, Troy Jones and Kevin Jones, that they weren't related, but they were both great players. And Marty Sanchez, Ken Stroud, these are all guys that were just, Travers always told me when I first started playing, Jim, you don't jump on top of a ladder, you climb a ladder. So, you pick the guy that's right in front of you, and then the next event, you try to get past him, and then you get past the next guy, and then the next guy. If you try to jump on the top of the ladder all the time, you're going to have a lot of not good success. You're going to fall a lot.
Sure, that makes sense. I like that saying.
Yeah. But Charlie Callahan gave me my first tournament, the Christmas Open, and helped me develop the tournaments that I started running. I worked with him, and he mentored me when we used to have hacky sack frisbee festivals and all kinds of other stuff. So when we started to develop other programs and do other things to promote disc golf, those were the guys that helped me get started. And as Charlie moved up to the foothills, he wanted someone to start doing Sacramento and the areas and the courses there. And he gave that responsibility to me. He saw something in me I didn't see in me yet. But yeah, so I owe my start in the beginning to Michael Travers and Charlie Callahan, without a doubt.
Well, that's really, we were going to ask that. Like, that's nice that you've already segued into that. But that was one of the things that we were going to touch on as well. Is I know what prompted me to move into running events, and it really was honestly while I was touring, the fact that we all sat around every week and just really ripped the person who was putting their blood, sweat, and tears into making the best possible event for us every week that they could. And I just kind of felt like, okay, well, if I think that I can sit here and talk this much shit about this, then obviously I must feel that I could do something better. And so that's when I started running tournaments. I'm not going to say that I necessarily did better than anybody else, but I've definitely run a few, but we're curious, what prompted the move from, into being a promoter as well as being a player.
Well, I've always been gifted with a pretty good personality of I don't know if I want to say leadership, but I've always had no problem stepping up and leading the charge. And I can remember sitting in the parking lot at Orangevale, and Charlie, let me have the Christmas Open. In the first year, I can remember sitting in the back of my Ford Courier in a lawn chair with lightning disc sitting next to me and trying to, signing people up on a pad of paper and having them take a disc out of the box. And, everybody who showed up could play. And after running the tournament for maybe 2 or 3 years, we were getting, 90, 100 people at the event. And that was, pretty much unheard of then, and I also was blessed to have a job with a printing company. I played a lot of softball and I did a lot of networking. So one of my first connections was with a local radio station. A good friend of mine, John Nelson, was the promotions director there. And under that radio station, there was about 5 or 6 radio stations, country and rock and classic rock and all that stuff. So I started to use that connection to do more and more promotions. And along about that time, John Houck created maybe one of the most important promotional events that we had since the Frisbee Hacky Sack festivals, and that was the world's biggest weekend.
For sure.
Okay, it gave small promoters in their areas an opportunity to give a player 3 discs and a t-shirt for like 15 or 20 bucks. And the tournament director got to keep like $5, right? And then the rest of the money went to John, which of course it's a business and he's shipping stuff out and doing all of his stuff. But that small little event that took the whole country by storm really was one of the first shots in the arm disc golf got. To be totally honest.
With that,
we've had a lot of different ways of making things get bigger and better, and people have used the same ideas like the ace race and all this other stuff. But that idea John had in the very beginning was monumental.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. The Pro or Masters Worlds is in Flagstaff this year. And one of the guys from my personal disc golf family tree, Jerry Gotcher, got Gary Bennett into playing as well. And Gary had a world's biggest in Flagstaff, and he won one of the 9-hole courses.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
And so that's how Flagstaff got going, and now they're having like their 3rd world championship this year there.
Yeah, so, it's amazing
exactly right.
That little seed, what it did. I mean, I ran the Am Worlds just a few years later.
I was
in
there.
94.
I was there. That was when
I have a picture.
Yeah, I got the yearbook, dude. I still got the yearbook you guys gave out. Remember that?
There are pictures of that.
Yeah,
you should be uploading it behind you right now.
I should. We'll reveal these. We'll have to have you back on and bring that out later or something.
Oh yeah.
Like that's one of the things. Like we had Roger on a few weeks back, and I found that thing not too long ago, and I was looking through it.
Roger was there.
Oh yeah, Roger was there. Tobish was there. McGill was there. I mean, like all these guys that I'm friends with now, I didn't meet any of them on that trip. Not a one of them. And like I'm like a huge number of. There was only like 90 of us or something, wasn't there? It wasn't a giant event. It's like 90.
No, because they kept. Because you know how I got that event.
No.
Burns calls me up, and he says, "Hey Jim, I got a problem." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he goes, "Cincinnati." I want to say it was Cincinnati. Cincinnati had won the bid, and they were unable to pull it together.
They
And
did
now
it in
we're-
95.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how long do I have? And he says, well, it's about 10 weeks away. And I said, 10 weeks? I go, well, that doesn't give me much time. I go, well, let me make a couple of phone calls and I'll see what I can, if I can put together the beginnings of a staff, then, you know, maybe I could pull this thing off for you. And so he says, okay. And then he calls me back a few hours later. He says, hey, Cincinnati might be able to pull it off. So hold on, Jim. So I waited. He calls me back a few days later. Jim, they can't do it. It's a done deal. We need you. So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. So I started calling, you know, networking. You know, I called Becky Zimmerman, you know, and Greg Zimmerman. I called them right away. I called Marty Hapner right away. I called Mike Travers right away. I called Leonard Muse right away.
Matt Leonard, I remember
Yeah,
that.
I started to try to put together a team that could individually work on putting together a Worlds, you know, and bring it all together. And so we managed to pull it off. And we had 300 players packages, but it was too last minute for everybody to travel around from all over the country. And ironically, a guy, what was his name? John
Tinsley, the winner.
Tinsley. He
Yeah,
won
John Tinsley. Oh yeah,
from
I'm still in contact with him.
Cincinnati. He's
Yeah.
from Cincinnati.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's not. He doesn't. He lives.
He's like, you guys were gonna have the
think he's down
Worlds
in
in my
Florida
city.
now,
You
but-
didn't. He went to another city and won.
And he
Oh,
killed it too.
he
Remember
That
did.
putt? Remember his putt? He had that putt that was on a laser. Yeah, I stayed
Oh
with
my
him a bunch of
gosh.
times. I stayed with him a bunch of times after that. I went in 95. I played Jurors, and then in 95 I played Great Lakes Open and the Cincinnati Am Worlds. And
Yeah.
and so that was when I solidified my friendship with him, because we had already hung out some
Yeah.
in Sacramento. And then
Yeah.
after that, I think I played the rest of the Edgewood Electrics, and I stayed.
So
with
now
him
I
every
see
tour.
how you work. You only hang out with the winners. That's why you didn't meet Tobish or Roger, none of them. It's like,
Dude, I was
man,
just
you
at
didn't make
Tobish's house
lead
a month
card. Why are you
ago.
talking to me?
I was just at Tobish's house a month ago.
I'm just teasing. I love those guys, man. We
Oh,
love going
that
to
was the thing.
Tobish's.
That was honestly, it was surprising and disappointing, because I'm so tight with so many of the guys that played in that tournament. And I was like, man, I don't understand how I didn't meet any of them until the next time I came back to California, you know?
That's crazy. It's crazy.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like, dude, like Roger, like Roger's on the same level as Bellier with me in my friend's book. I mean, like I've been more places with that cat, stayed the night in more people's houses with that cat than just about anybody. Either Paul or Roger are in the lead of how many times have we couch surfed together? How many times have we gang raped a hotel room where, you know, there's like 5 people staying in a hotel and 2 people in vans outside coming and taking a shower and stuff. Like
I'm
we've
sure we
done
could
it
come
with
up
those
with
2
better
guys.
ones.
And who?
Yeah, you really need to get more politically correct on your what you're
I
doing to
think it's
that
great.
room.
If you saw
Yeah.
some of those rooms,
Oh,
you'd
boy. No,
understand that
it's
it's
just-
totally
just-
appropriate.
Okay,
Oh,
maybe we
Love
better
it, love it, love
switch
it.
gears right away.
yeah.
Listen, I do definitely want to talk to you about a couple things.
Okay.
But what I mean, I want to talk to you about your Worlds and about the WIFTIF experience, but we're kind of at a point where it merges easily into something that Mace really wants to, sometimes something to talk to you about. But one of the things I've been involved in for a while, and I've like Mace made that transition fairly quickly to become the promoter or / advocate, whatever label you want to put on it. And I've seen a lot of people come new to the game and they're fresh, filled with fire. And a lot of times the person who's the most willing to, or if they look the most willing, or maybe they're just the most talented player on the field, they become the next in line to run something when there's a void, when there's an absence. And a lot of times players have to have a choice. Do I stay playing? Do I focus my energies? I mean, everybody has limited amount of time. Do I want to focus all that on becoming the best player I can be, or the best promoter? And I've had conversations with some younger players of the game about that. Like, listen, you're a really good player. Assess what you want to do, but commit to that. And I say it's very rare, extremely rare, to ever have. I, in fact, only think of 2 exceptions to the rules where you can't have an amazing top level player and a world class promoter. And Dan Gilly and you are the 2 people, the exceptions to the rules. And that kind of funnels in. We've all run tournaments. We've all been on both sides of the TD desk. But maybe Mace, you want to take it from here and talk about some of the particular challenges and rewards of the tournament director position.
Well, I found in a hurry, like I seriously, I look up to you guys for being able to pull that off, because I mean, Gimli still sometimes does. I mean, obviously he's not running the event like he used to, but I've seen several times just even in the last 6 years since I've been taking trophies out there, where he was just as involved as anybody else and he was playing. And I'm like, bro, come on, man, go play. You got a whole herd of people taking care of that. You don't need to hold on. Let me get that for you. Go play, and it's really remarkable. There's very few people that I've seen pull it off on a regular basis. How do you pull that off?
Well, I think recruiting and being blessed with great volunteers helps.
Sure.
I think that in the beginning, it was a little easier to run the event and play in the event, because there wasn't we had shotgun starts, everybody went out, so it was ghost town. So you could basically go out and play and then come back. But now with tee times, it's a revolving door all the time, and it's impossible to be out on the course and running the event. So
Yeah,
having
sure.
a great team behind you is the key, I think, to being able to do both. But you have to work for many years to build to that point. I mean, I ran a lot of tournaments between 1985 and 1998, I guess, is when I was lucky enough to find Bruce and Jenny Nisley, who wanted to join me in my dream of having a pro shop and, continuing to run the amateur state championships. The Super Tour event is what it was called then. And keep promoting those things, as well as, World's Biggest and all the rest of the stuff we were doing, and the other small tournaments, the Central Valley Series events, and so on. So when you have 3 people, like Dan has a great team,
Big time.
he has a really great team that's been with him for a long time. And that gave him the freedom in the last 10 or 12 years to dabble in one and be able to, pull away and go play. He's not as competitive as he used to be, but that's because, the guy is a full-time worker too,
Yeah,
so, I mean, he's always going, his knees are going, his body's breaking down. So he can't do it as much as he can, but he still loves to play, and he can get hot. I've been in many rounds where he's just chatting away and just cha-ching, 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 and it's like no hesitation. Just is it me? Oh, ching, it's,
and then
it's
goes right
amazing
back.
to watch.
Goes right back to the conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, having Bruce and Jenny for all those years made it, and they allowed me to do both, to be the guy that helped with the tournament and to organize the staff and the volunteers and to keep things moving and to play, and there was lots of times in the end where Bruce and I struggled to, okay, you'll play. Okay, I'll play, I'm not going to play, back and forth. And so I was blessed that I had great people around me, just like, when whenever I did volunteer work around the park or worked on projects, I was very, very fortunate to have a great network of men and women that volunteered, that worked hard to build bridges, to cross over barriers, to gather wood from their construction sites and different things. So, you know, when you're working like that and networking like that, and people want to see you play too, sometimes it's a little easier. In today's game, I don't know how a guy could successfully he could successfully run a tournament if he didn't play, and then the rest of the year, you know, go and play if he wanted to, maybe. But he's not going to be able to run a shop, a course, you know, tournaments, multiple tournaments, and play. It's just too demanding. Especially at the pro tour level, it's too demanding.
It's way impossible at that point.
I mean, it's very demanding out here on the road, going from place to place, practicing and stuff. And us old school guys, you know, I can remember going to a Worlds and you had 5 courses you had to practice because you're about to play 9 rounds.
5 days worth of golf,
and, oh my gosh. And so it would take
and
you
if you did well, you'd
practice.
play 10 rounds.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was 9, and I remember playing 9.5 rounds. I remember when it went down to 7 rounds. Now these guys got it down to 4 rounds and 1, maybe 2 courses. So I'm not saying
it's a whole different. It's not an endurance competition anymore. But
well,
but that's not the only thing that's changed either. I mean, you know, the shot that I personally feel like the tee time. I understand the function of the tee time and the ability to put a whole lot of people into an event. But
that's not the big part of it.
It takes the social aspect completely out of an event.
Yeah, that part's true. Okay. You do lose some of the social networking that went on during the shotgun starts. I would admit that. But when it comes to sponsors, promotions, and legitimacy, the tee times makes it work, because now you have flow through the park. You have a vendor doesn't come out and have 75, 100 people at his booth where he can't help everyone, and then no one for 3.5 hours.
That's a good point. I never really thought about it like that.
So that was one of the tough parts when we first decided to start going with tee times. Was like, hey, you know, we got these people paying $500, $250 to be out here, and we're giving them more people than they can handle, and then we give them nothing. But with tee times, you get 2 or 3 straggle up, you get another one that comes off later, you know, it's there. And then you could go out and watch your buddy, or he can watch you. Or, I mean, I just think the people don't socialize enough with tee times. They're more concerned with getting there an hour before, practicing, playing, getting something to eat after. They're the ones that are causing that problem. It is possible to be social and play.
It's true.
It is possible.
It's one of the things that I've always talked about is that, you know, I really felt like even as even with shotgun starts, there wasn't a lot of time for socialization, because you're dashing off to lunch with like whoever you traveled with, and maybe whoever you stayed with, and maybe one other person. And I really think that was one of the reasons, like, well, okay, for my event, the Zebo's Open, I always have a barbecue on Saturday night. Well, if you have tee times, there's no reason to have a barbecue, because you're only going to have 10 people, or else you got to have it all day long.
Well, that's what we did.
Or else you're going to have 10 people standing around, and you're going to have a whole lot of leftover food. And so that's kind of a tough balancing act for someone who runs a B tier like I do. You know, how do I step that event up and then lose the barbecue, because I think that's important. I mean, I don't know how many Kansas City Wide Opens you played at, but that was always one of the best things about that event to me, was that everybody did come to the party on Saturday night, and they had a big throwdown, all kinds of food, bunch of vendors, really good. I mean, really, really good time. But I felt like, you know, part of that was, you know, the whole let's get together and have some dinner together too, you know. And I really feel like that's a great part of my event. But if I'm going to go to tee times, it pretty much defeats it, you know.
Well, do you run a 2-day event?
Yep.
Then do both.
Do
run
shotguns at
shotgun,
tea time.
shotgun on Saturday. Everybody has a players meeting. Everyone goes to their hole. Everyone has a great time. Everyone goes to the barbecue after, and the next day is tea times.
Wow, that's a really good idea.
That is a good idea, actually.
Wow.
And then it seeds it'll seed your
And
gallery.
you have all your vendors there on Sunday. You have all your vendors there on Sunday. You have your massage therapist there. You have your, whoever you're having out there, and the people are just coming by one at a time, and this guy and this guy, and oh yeah.
Oh, that's really.
That's not a bad idea. I'll definitely
Yeah,
keep it in mind because I'm laying groundwork for my
I
tournament.
tend to be a problem solver.
Well, see, and you're trying to shove off all the responsibility for your success to your great team. Come on, the good people gather good people around them, and
Oh, well, see,
especially-
he's also, this
especially
is another way
leaders.
you can figure out how to play too.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that it was in 1998 that you brought Bruce and Jennifer and Isley in with you
Yeah.
as part of your TD management team, because it was the next year that you really took off and you won your first world championships, 1999 Rochester, which I believe this is the photo from a still from the video of you making the
No.
winning putt. Is that not
That's
that?
actually Flagstaff. That's
Okay.
that's one of the moments Brad did not like at the Worlds. I hit the
Brad.
basket on the last hole. That was when I hit the basket for an
Yeah.
ace on the
For two.
last hole, and it was a temporary basket, and I rocked the basket, and the disc fell out, and the crowd went crazy, and they're screaming and they're carrying on, and I took second
Okay.
in that tournament, and Brad took first, and he felt a little overshadowed with that chain slam.
Well, you just
So-
standing right next to him, he'd feel overshadowed. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. That's a great story right there. You just reminded me of the height thing. We were playing at the Wisconsin Worlds. Okay. This is 07. And Chuck Kennedy had the brilliant idea of putting a basket like 12 feet or something. It was like 10 feet up in this spider tree on the Golden Bear course, I think it was called. Anyway, the girls were actually using sticks to try to get their discs out after they made a putt to try to force them out, right? And so we're playing, and Brad makes his putt, and he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Jim, could you get that for me?" And I looked at him with total seriousness on my face, and I said, "Gosh, I hope you brought enough putters, Brad, because that one looks stuck." Oh man, no, that was one of those great moments. Brad and I love that guy. I miss him. I wish he was still in the game. I mean, yeah, I know
You're talking Brad Hammock?
I am.
He's caddying for Yuli. You can see him this weekend.
I know. I see him all the well. I actually got in the tournament this weekend. Juliana, she put me on the wait list because she's doing commentary this weekend in Austin. So she was like, "Oh, I'll put you on the wait list because then maybe you could play, but you're 20th, so don't worry about it. You probably won't play." I said, "No, I could just hang out." And so today, Neil calls me. I'm playing tomorrow at 11:10.
Nice.
I haven't even played the course.
Who cares?
We came on Monday and we played the women's tees because Juliana's doing the commentary, so she wanted to see the course. I didn't play the men's. I have no idea where they're at.
You've done this before.
I started looking, going, "Wow, that's 150 feet farther than your guys' tee." There's one hole that goes over. There's one hole that goes over a green, and the girls play it. And it's about 345, 370, somewhere right in there. And the guys play it. It's 485 to clear the green. So yeah, I'll be throwing an eagle or something small and putting it in front of the green and then throwing over. but I did make it from the girls' tee, or not the girls' tee, from the age protected female tee. I did, because I thought about asking for a little handicap and let me play for those tees, but I don't think the boys will let that happen.
No, not to a 4-time world champ. Come on, you can't
Definitely
play those
not.
shenanigans.
They're like, oh,
Uh,
this is gonna be this will be the tipping point in
Did-
Jim's
do-
favor.
Do you still stand, Jim? Do you, when you get to the basket, when you play a hole out, do you still stand at the basket and look back at the tee? Do you still take those moments to look
When
at the
I'm
flight path
practicing,
when you
when I'm
practice?
practicing, yes, it's the best way to learn new courses. Yeah, is to look at
sure.
it backwards.
See what you
Absolutely,
missed,
100%.
or if
Nice.
you hit the right line. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it gives you a different vantage point and flex points and stuff that you can see different angles coming in. Because a lot of times you'll think you have the hyzer from the tee pad, and when you get up there and you're standing at the basket, you'll notice that there's a tree that's blocking that shot unless you come in low. So then you might readjust and bring the shot in lower, or there might be a better window or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Looking back is a great way to learn a course.
Sorry that you'll be learning it the opposite way tomorrow, but such
That's
is
okay.
such is the
That's all
vagaries of
right.
the wait list.
I'll do so much better in the second round.
You never know, man. You may just pull off a great round in the first round. I mean, it's not like that hasn't happened before, and it's not like you haven't
It's
done this
not.
before.
No,
You know what I
it's
mean?
not.
You've
It
played, but
happened.
you've also played blind. So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
who knows?
You never know. I'm just
Take
going
a
to go have a
notebook.
good time. I'm going to have
Take
a
a little.
good time. I told Ricky when I saw him today practicing, I told him not to lose any sleep over the fact that I'm playing.
Is he on your? Is he on your card first round?
No. He's first to tee off, and I think I'm third card. Yeah, I'm third card. I get to play with Ezra. I'm really
Wow.
looking
Nice.
forward to that. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be
Really
showing
looking
the
forward
kid-
to laying up behind his shots.
Well, I mean, you've been involved in the game so long. You've seen the evolution of the disc, but you've seen the evolution of the players too.
Oh,
It
yeah.
used to be there was a couple of freaks here and there, like little Stevie Rico could throw a bomb, and here and there people, the young kids coming up could. But now it seems like virtually every one of these walking young adolescents are throwing 600 feet.
Well, it does have a lot to do with the disc technology too.
Right.
So, but I like to say that I've been graced with the fact that the technology of the discs has advanced as fast as my age. So I'm still throwing over 400 feet at 62, but I am throwing a 12 or 13 speed disc to do it, as opposed to the 6 or 7 speed disc I used to throw.
Right.
So,
Or the 4-speed XD that you were all
yeah.
excited about
Oh,
when it
extra
first came out.
distance. I tell that story all the time. That's what
Yeah.
XD stood for, was extra distance.
Absolutely.
Now it's an
It was
approach.
it was always one of the local kind of urban secrets or urban legends of Toronto disc golf that the XD debuted at the 87 Worlds. Do you recall that? Was it an 87 release? Was it just that it happened?
Oh,
Because a lot of times
gosh.
makers would release a new disc at the Worlds, right?
Yeah. I want to say it had to be about that time, because I was throwing Nova stuff back then. And one of my problems with the Nova back then was they used lead in their discs, and they broke all the time when it get cold out, or you catch a tree just right, or if the weighting agent that they used would cool just right in the disc, and you'd catch it on a tree, the disc would split, and that was one of the reasons I went to Lightning in the beginning and spent 14 years with them, was because their discs were guaranteed not to break. You could beat the crap out of them and they'd get all knotty and everything, but they would not break on you.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. That was because I called Tim Selinsky and I asked him, I said, hey, how come these discs break? Can't you make them with the plastic that, has a little bit more durability in them? And he said, well, why would we want to do that? I know he was just being sarcastic, but Because
Yeah,
they
'cause
make,
I mean, it was
they
ski,
make,
and you know he's not that kind of a jerk, but
yeah, he was just being sarcastic. If you knew Tim, his first responses most of the time were very smart. And then he would calm down and he'd give you the true, hey, let's try to work on this kind of thing.
yeah, I sure
But
miss
yeah,
him.
that was that. I always remember that. But yeah, so that's what winded up happening. And Lightning did a lot for me back then and made it possible to start touring and selling more discs and doing all kinds of stuff. So I really appreciate Steve's start in that regard.
And so
So
when
you
did
see
don't
it
know
something
anything
in
about
me.
Steve currently, do you?
Do I what?
You don't know anything about Steve currently, do you?
No,
I
I
don't either. That's why I
I
asked. I
I
mean,
thought I know he sold his business and I know he was having health issues, but I don't know what happened. I wasn't in a tight enough circle to know. I'm hoping he's still around and that one day we'll connect again.
yeah, I don't
Because
know.
I
I've
haven't
heard
talked to
other
the guy in a
people.
long time.
I've heard other people from around here ask about him, and honestly, the only time I know for sure that I saw him was in '96 at the Pro Worlds Fly Mart because he was right across the aisle from me, and like that honestly was the last time I know for sure that I did see him.
Yeah, I
At
know
least,
that
I
when
mean, he was just 20-25 minutes east of me. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, I know that he had health issues. Um, Around 2000, 2005, that area. But I kind of lost touch with him when, he kind of moved away from the sport in the 99, I would say, is when he really started to move away. And then I heard that he sold everything to that Sun uh
Sun King?
Sun King, I think it was. Yeah,
really?
or I don't know if he sold everything to him, but I know he sold like a lot of his products that he had that he was doing nothing, like his bags and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then I've never heard anything from him since then.
I don't know
Maybe
anybody
he's
that,
one of these people watching.
maybe.
When did you
Probably not.
when did you go back to Innova then? When was it
Actually,
there?
that's a good story. I when Steve dropped me in mid 99, and I went into the store at Final Nine and I put my bag up on the counter and Bruce was there and I said, okay, Bruce, Lightning's not going to sponsor me anymore, so we're going to sponsor me. So we started ordering shirts, with the Smash Mouth logo on it and all the rest of the stuff. And I said, okay, you're going to have to help me. What flies like this? And I started to piece together a golf bag with all the manufacturers. So I had a Kitty Hawk in there from DGA. I had an XL in there. I remember that. I had to keep my P38 and I had to keep my Spitfire in there. And then I put in a few Innova discs. I went to a AVR putter. And then practiced for a month or so and went out to the Worlds and won.
Holy cow.
And
That's
then
huge.
in my acceptance speech, I said, well, I'm sponsored by my own shop back home. And I think you should throw whatever you want. If it makes you happy, throw it. And I did that for 7 years. Yeah, because in 07, Sam Ferens called me and said that Dave felt like I had waited long enough. And if I wanted to play for Innova, I could. And I've been with them ever since.
Waited long enough, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He actually had me on a punishment that I didn't know I was on a punishment. But basically I was on a punishment for throwing Lightning for 14 years. So I threw lightning for 14 years. He made me wait 7 years before I could get a sponsorship from him.
It took you 21 years to run that course.
It did. 21 years. And it all stems back to Tim saying, why would I make a disc that doesn't break?
Oh, that's incredible. That's a great
Crazy.
story.
Oh my goodness. I am going to get shot for some of these stories.
That's okay. We don't have any viewers anyway, so.
Oh, okay. They're all falling off.
They'll be archived, so you know.
Oh well, maybe somebody will listen.
At some
listen,
point, I'm sure.
We do we're just over an hour here, and we don't want to take up too much of your time. We know you got to play tomorrow.
And you probably need a nap at this point too. So
Actually, I tried to get in a nap earlier, but they're setting up the studio downstairs for these guys to do their shows tomorrow, which I hope everybody tunes into. And so yeah, didn't get my nap today, so hopefully I'll sleep well tonight.
All right. Well, we'll have to the folks there.
We'll have to touch base with you again, and you know, talk about how you won the lottery twice. We didn't even get to that.
No, we didn't.
Oh yeah, I did win the lottery. She's lying right there.
Yeah, well, and that's definitely one of the ways. But the other way is you know, with your health scare, you know, and it's really I know I mentioned this when we talked to Juliana, but I'm going to mention it again. That was one of the coolest things for me personally that I got to do for a friend last year. Was like, you know, I was texting with Juliana pretty heavy at that point, just wondering how everything was going and how you were doing and everything like that. And then I was like, hey, you know, if you want to take a break real quick, maybe we could catch lunch. She's like, I ain't leaving Jim's side. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be driving through Sacramento. Tell me where the hospital is and I'll just do a drive-by. And, you know, I let y'all know where you were at or where I was at. And I pulled up and we talked on the phone and we just waved out the window. And I felt like that was really, that to me was a really cool thing that I could do for a friend, you know?
Dude, that was huge. That was huge for me too. You couldn't see me crying, and I probably shouldn't admit I was, but you know, I loved it, man.
At that point in time, you should, you know, I mean, that was my pleasure. That was truly my pleasure, you know, I was like, hey, you know what? I could just do a drive-by. I'll just wave to you out the window, you know?
That was awesome. Yeah.
I mean, you weren't getting any other visitors besides Juliana, you know, I mean.
No, it was during COVID. It was during COVID.
Was locked down, and so.
Yeah.
And plus, honestly, I probably wouldn't have gone inside the hospital at that point if they'd have let me.
I don't blame you.
Just because I'd have been like, no, I don't want any of that, you know? And
yeah, they would have,
that's just crazy, you know? So, I mean, I can only imagine, like, that had to have been doubly stressful for you because you didn't know what your health was going to do to you, but what was the facility going to do to you as well, beyond your or their control, you know? I mean, like,
one thing's for sure. It's hard to recover in a hospital. They just don't let you sleep. I mean, there's a lot of noise, a lot of distractions, and they're waking you up every, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours to take blood or a temperature or to just see if you're still living. So, yeah, well, that was tough. I finally told them, you need to get me out of here or I'm never going to get healthy. So I made them release me. At one point they go, well, we don't know if you're ready. And I said, well, let me go home and find out if I'm ready, because I'm never going to find out here, you know?
Right.
So that's the toughest part, is getting out.
And getting out on your feet too. Shoot.
Yeah.
You've come back from.
That was good. I walked out. Just like Johnny, I walked out. They wanted me to take a wheelchair. I said no. I go, you can walk that wheelchair next to me if that makes you feel better or fills your obligation, but I'm walking. So, and I walked out. Yeah.
Well, you go out,
dude.
Oh, I love that picture. It's on my phone.
Yeah, no, this is your official team photo, your Innova team player photo. I definitely wanted to get a couple of photos. Juliana's got a great photo of you two walking. I think she posted a couple of weeks ago, walking the course one time. And you guys just look at these two angels. They look so wonderful together, don't they?
Yeah, very blessed. Very blessed.
We're blessed to have you. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. And
no, I appreciate you guys reaching out. I like chatting about the old days. There's a lot of people's names out there that need to be heard.
Absolutely.
Well, that's where we feel like we come in, you know what I mean? Because we're in touch, we're still, you know, in touch with a lot of those folks, and you know, like we've been talking just in the last few days, and we've got a pretty good list of people that have already said yes, and we've got an even bigger list of people that were like, hey, we want you to be next, you know, and so trying to
Yeah,
tell some of the
that's
stories,
awesome.
trying to tell some of the stories that a lot of the guys you're going to play with tomorrow don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're going to tell stories that happened before any of those people you're playing with were born. So
Yeah,
let
we were
loose with
kind
the
of laughing
stories.
about that today. There's a good chance I'll be 40 years older than some of them.
Well, you show them what
I'm
a
pretty
feisty.
sure I'm 40 years older than one of the kids on my card. I think he's that young kid, right? That won the amateurs or
Oh, yeah, there's,
yeah. What's his name?
well, Evan Scott.
Evan Scott. Evan
Okay.
Scott. He's probably what, 20, 22, 21?
I don't even know him yet.
That's right. Well, he played in juniors, under
Juniors.
15 in 2015.
2015, he played juniors.
All right.
There you
Close
go.
enough to 40 years to make it.
Yeah. Well, I'll be 62 at the beginning of next month.
Well, I
so.
mean, let's just face it, dude. Disc golf is all you guys are going to have in common to talk about.
Oh, I could probably, you know, I don't know.
That's the
Yeah,
thing that
that's
sucks
probably
for
true.
me. Like I met Macbeth when he was 16, and that's now almost 20 years ago. Not quite, but when I talk to him, I just really don't like. I don't have a lot of experiences with him. I don't have anything real. I don't know what to say, and it's not just him. It's a lot of those younger guys. You know, like I try to make a point to introduce myself, and especially like last year at USDGC, they had me MC the qualifying, not just the distance finals. And so that really gave me a good opportunity to go, hey, I'm Brian Mace. I know who you are. And I'm like, no, but you don't know me. Like, you know who I am, but you don't know me, and I don't know you. Like when I hear your name, when someone calls it or they're talking about scores, I don't know a lot of these people. And man, I used to know everybody. And so
well, there's a lot more people playing now, Mace, so don't get
For
hard
sure.
on yourself.
no, and I'm just trying to make up for it. I'm just trying to catch up because
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan knows everybody. You know, I mean, obviously it's his job to some degree, helping manage the team, but like I want to catch up. I want to, you know, at least want to know who they are when I see them. You know, and like last year at the Memorial, I walked from hole. What's the last hole before you cross the road on Shelley Sharp? Is that 9? The last one where you play up to where they have the barbecue set up
like
all the time.
6.
Is it 6?
Yeah, 6,
Before
and
you
you
cross
walk
the
over
road?
to 7. You play 8 across the water. 9, 10 goes to the corner. 11 comes back. 12 goes
Okay.
over the gunite.
All right, so I was watching the lead card on that hole, and you know, so 13's across the lake by the community center, and then 14 is that double mando or triple mando hole, right? And then you cross over, play 15. So I walked from the corner of the hole, like that led to the tee of 6. There was a gallery all the way from tee of 6 to that sidewalk, and there was gallery all the way to the sidewalk where it crosses to 15. I walked from where that gallery started all the way to the sidewalk crossing before I found Pete Johnson. He was the first person I met. It was 10 people. I mean, like 8 to 10 people deep in that gallery, and I didn't know any of them. Not a soul. I was like, who are these people? I need some help. I don't know anybody to talk to, you know? And
Well,
Meanwhile,
it's
they're
actually a
pretty good
really
amount of
good
people.
problem for us to have.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, you open up at least one of those six-pack cans of whoop ass you got ready for the kids tomorrow. Be that Patty on St. Patty's Day, and you know, keep doing what you do. Keep smiling, keep winning, keep loving, keep living, brother.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Paul. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, hey, dude, thanks for being on, and look forward to running into you again sometime this summer. And if nothing else, I'll see you in October for sure.
Okay, you got it.
Oh no,
All right.
I'll be in Flagstaff, so I'll see you in Flagstaff.
Absolutely, we'll be there.
All right, cool.
All right,
Jim.
we'll see you guys.
Thanks
Give
a
our
lot,
best to
Jim. Appreciate you
Juliana.
tuning in, man, or jumping on with us.
Hey, not a problem. Loved it.
Right on. Thanks, brother.
What do I hit here, honey? I'm old school. I don't even know what I hit here. So here she comes. Here, come on in.
Yeah,
Say hi,
Juliana
honey.
says, just send that
Say
email
hi.
to me.
Yeah.
Hi,
Here, what do we
Juliana.
hit?
Thanks,
We hit like
Juliana.
Yeah, okay, here we go. We're gonna say goodbye now. There we go.
Hey.
Yeah,
Kick some ass
It's
on
a
that
little-
commentary tomorrow.
That was good. That was a really good show.
Right on, dude. Yeah, definitely. We're still live, by the way. So
Thanks. Thank you again to our original Seven of Hearts. That reference, of course, comes from I don't know who was behind it. I think Texas State Disc Golf 2006 PDGA Tour playing cards. Do you remember that?
Dave
Jason
Nesbitt.
Wilson? Dave
Dave
Nesbitt,
Nesbitt did
okay.
those. That's another guy we should have on the show
It'd be
because he was
interesting to know.
competition director back then, and he did those. In fact, I was staying at his house when he broke that set out, and he had to cut them. I don't even remember. That's a good. See, there's a good story.
This guy's the Seven of Hearts, and she's
Okay.
the Ace of Hearts. They're both in the same suit.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. Elaine is the Two of Hearts, or no, I think she's the King of Hearts. That's right, Elaine King. There you go.
There you go.
I wanted to
on.
ask. I wanted to ask Jim. He has his fifth world title comes from the 1991 Whiff Diff Overall Championships that were held in Santa Cruz. And from what research I was able to come up with, apparently there was no prize money, no purse payout for the win, but he did get a mountain bike. Second place
Dude,
got a pair.
that's a pretty good payout.
Second place got a pair of rollerblades.
That must have been Mike Randolph. He's still using them. Yeah, I remember that guy, man. When I went to Hudson Mills with him the first time, 95, and he jumps on his rollerblades and goes takes a big lap around the whole damn park to warm up for the round. I was like, shit, dude, there's no way I'm gonna get through the round out here if I go rollerblading right now.
I know. Well, I remember he was the first guy I remember seeing who, after his round at the USDGC, ran the course and played it. And so he had his own separate thing where, like, the combination of time and stroke. That's what do you call it? Speed golf?
Yeah, speed golf.
I mean, that's crazy fast.
Let me tell you how that's gonna happen for me. If there's 7 dogs and they're chasing me, then I'm only gonna run until the first dog gets me, and then all of them are gonna have me. That ain't gonna happen.
That ain't gonna happen.
There will be no running.
I mean, when you're talking to a legend like Jim, his resume goes back so long. There's so many different angles and corners to talk to. I found that really illuminating to talk about why he got to Lightning in the first place, and
Sure.
and you know although it's a sarcastic response about the planned obsolescence of you know the fragility of discs. Obviously, that's one of the things. I mean, how many stories have you had where someone designs a course where there's lots of opportunity to lose a disc, and oh, hey, I just happen to sell discs too. You guys play the course, you lost a few, hey, come stop here and buy a few.
Right. Yeah. Well, and and that the other thing too is if you think about all that, think about all those eras, and I mean, like, not really eras, but like time frames. Like, there was a time frame. Well, like, for instance, when I first started, the Whippet and the Viper were the fastest disc available, and dude, those old Mold Vipers, those original Vipers were badass. I mean, like, once you broke one in, like, you had a wicked overstable one and then a broken one in your bag, and then maybe a beat up one, which pretty much was the way you played with all DX discs. Brand new, middle of the road, have to be out of my bag, and and using them for those different shots. And man, I remember when the Viper changed, when the mold changed and the plastic changed too. And for a good period of time, even with a rock, like, you could hit a tree with a rock and then put a crease in the disc and it'd never be the same. And the same, then there was times where there was another period of time where they broke, like Jim was saying. I mean, I don't know that I was playing during that particular period of time that he was talking about, but I definitely remember at least one period of time where stuff broke, and then and things changed and molds varied, and the San Marino rock went away, but then the Cucamonga rock came, you know, I mean, just different things that happened like that. That there were great steps, but then there was also issues with the product. I mean, with you know, the fiber, you know, the things that they're being made of.
That's you brought that's an interesting point, because I remember, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was Barry Schultz was talking about this, how like, let's say in the late 90s, early 2000s, even then we think of the innovative discraft as like major foundational pillars of the sport, huge players. But in the plastics industry, they were minuscule, tiny,
Oh
minute.
yeah,
They couldn't always secure the same caliber of plastic or the same quality of shipments, so that you could have those wild fluctuations, you know, between different runs and different plastic runs, I guess, you know, like the 90 whippets whippets and vipers up until say 96. Those are the sought after ones.
oh for
Then,
sure.
then
Yeah,
there were like the late 90s gazelles, which everybody looked for, the beadless gazelles, and then there's, you know, this and that.
then
And
the 10-time T-birds and different. Yeah. Oh well, you know. Okay, so they used to have at Worlds every year. You probably got to go to a few of them at the World Championships, but they would have Innova night, and if you were one of their customers, they would invite you to this, and they would give away a little of this and a little of that, and you know, have some refreshments and whatnot, and then you could talk with Tim and Dave and Harold, and they would tell. Like I remember the one in man, I don't think it was 96, maybe it was 97 or 98, but I remember like when the Rancho mold came out, you know, they've said at this point in time we've spent almost $40,000 on that mold, you know, on the pieces to that mold and the parts to that mold, and you know, I think I've mentioned this before, but you hear people saying, oh, that, you know, the first run rock mold, they don't break that out anymore. Well, there's no such thing as a first run rock mold. It's the same mold. It's just that different days, the material's different, and you know, different things, different factors, humidity. You may have a little bit of this more, or a little bit of that more, but then Solinsky said, he goes, one of the other factors, and you just touched on it, is that we're buying semis full of particles, and our competitors like Dixie Cup are not just buying train cars, but entire trains full of particles. So we're barely minnows in this big pond, you know, and so that's that's just interesting, you know, that's a whole nother thing. And they got to a point where the last time I was allowed into the manufacturing side of West Coast Innova was around the same time frame where they started having a whole nother facility across the back parking lot, and it was only for storage of particles. And it was how they started to get ahead of that problem. And you know, when they had the opportunity, and you know, the cash flow obviously was probably a factor too, but once they started having the opportunity to stockpile, you know, the particles that they really wanted to make the disc out of, then they did that. And it, you know, is obviously part of the evolution of the whole thing as well.
yeah, that'd be awesome to talk to. Obviously, Dave would be awesome to talk to Dave just about the mad wizard behind the curtain, pulling it all together, driving the design for
Well,
well,
if we could
40
get him to
years.
come on and open up, we could probably have an episode every week with just him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It would just the infinite amount of knowledge that he has alone. You know, you could have your own podcast with him. Yeah, here we are tonight with Dave again. And guess what? We're going to talk about more discs. You know, and
I don't think there's anything in the world that he would love to do more than meet up with us once a week to talk about this.
oh, I'm sure that he's probably saying no right now.
Oh, well, listen, I am gonna have to take a early pass. I got a big day tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day. So
Oh, yeah, right on. Well, go get some rest, and it's good talking to you this week, and we'll talk more soon.
we're gonna try Dan Kinley is gonna be one of our imminent guests. Hopefully we might also have Harold Duvall if things go right.
Maybe.
But
I don't know. Let's not go that far with that one, but you know, like Dan Ginley's definitely someone on on deck.
Kale,
Kevin McCoy,
Lavisco, Kevin
Kale's
McCoy.
on deck.
We've got a bunch of people that we definitely want to talk to, and stories, so many stories to unearth.
Yeah, there'll be more and more, and we'll get better at announcing this more on a, given a better time frame than we have been so far too.
Are you able
So-
to tell? Do we have people watching us tonight?
Yeah, Rebecca Duffy's tuned in, Matt LaCourte, Pat Hamill, my buddy Chad Lefevre, my buddy Steve Martin tuned in. Did I already say Tobish? Because Tobish tuned in as well.
Oh,
He's
cool.
regular now. He's a friend of the show almost.
All right. Well, we'll have to get him on too.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that he'll say yes.
The guest list expands with each show.
Well, everybody keeps saying yes. We might have to go to every week, but for now, we're going to keep it the 2 weeks. So
We'll keep with irregular hours and irreverent guests.
a rubber
always,
skeleton, and
But all
and
right,
who knows
nice man.
what's
There's
next.
always a pleasure seeing you and hanging out and sharing the stories and digging up the stories, man.
Hey, watch some basketball.
Oh
We
yeah, March
invented it.
Madness. That's right.
Okay, we didn't necessarily invent it. We perfected it.
That's true. It was a Canadian who invented it, but in
Yeah,
the
come on.
United States, so it's shared parentage, I guess.
Yeah,
All right, enjoy the March Madness. We'll talk later, brother.
All right, have a good one, brother.
All right.
See y'all.